yeah, I just want to say I really didn't give a shit about nobody but me, and I was happy as a lark.
Oh, welcome to What in the Duck podcast. I'm your host, Oliver Peck. What in the Duck podcast is proud to be sponsored by Dream Machines of Texas, www.dreammachinesoftexas.com. All your used motorcycle wants and needs all in one place at www.dreammachinesoftexas.com. They have multiple locations with large inventory and get new bikes in every week. Knowledgeable staff with great service and financing and extended warranty options available. They also have a complete service garage, so every bike is gone through and brought up to speed before you hit the road. I have bought more than a few bikes from Dream Machines over the years, and I could not be more satisfied. I've also had friends from all over the country buy bikes from Dream Machines because they couldn't find a better deal anywhere. You can buy a bike and have it shipped to you anywhere in the U.S. Why buy a brand new bike with that brand new high price when you can get a like-new bike with that dream deal you've been looking for? Go to www.dreammachinesoftexas.com and get a bike and get your ass on the road. All right, welcome to another episode of What in the Duck podcast. I'm here, I'm your host, Oliver Peck. All right. So this episode, we have a very interesting life transformation story from somebody I've known for 30 years. This story is incredible. Somebody who has overcome insurmountable odds. And, there's been a lot of ups and downs in my life, but nothing as drastic as what has happened to the guy you're about to listen to. My buddy Rainbow, he I don't want to spill the beans, but it's a wild story. I mean, this guy is out of control and got it under control, and just an amazing guy. I knew him before, during, and after all of this, and I'm just when he was able to get out of this, I was just blown away because it just never happens. It just never happens. People that get this far down, it seems like it's impossible to get out. And just to let everybody know, no matter where you are, it's not impossible to get out. No matter how low, it's never possible to come back up. There's just, I hope everybody that needs it can get the help they need. Well, we're going to start it off with a couple of questions from the email, like we always do. And if you have any questions at all, ask me anything you want me to answer on the podcast, you can just email me all your questions to whatintheduckpodcast@gmail.com. And I've got a few to answer this week. All right, here we go. First question from Jordan Smucker. That's right, Mr. Smucker. What's up, Smucker? How you doing today? Long time no see. He says, how, when, and why did you start skateboarding? And what eventually led to the endorsement with Vans? Well, I've told this story, a few times, a few different platforms here and there, but I'm going to give you the abridged version. But basically, when I was a kid, I was always an outdoor, active, high energy, go kind of kid. And not like these kids today that just sit around and suck on Twinkies and play video games. I was out there in the world living life. Played a bunch of sports when I was a kid, and all the little league, the soccer, the baseball, the football, all that. And I just never could really get into the groove of the team sport mentality, Also, I'll add another note. The other thing with all these team sports is the rules. There's so many rules and the regulations and the this and the lines and the here and the there. And I was just too insane and too OCD and too hyperactive to follow such rigid guidelines. And so the single mano, one-on-one, sports or games always interested me a lot more. One of the things with the team sport thing that always kind of felt weird to me is that, if you mess up and cause the team to lose, then it's like you feel bad for everybody else and everybody's mad at you. Or if one person saves it and wins the game, then they get all the credit. And it was just kind of like, some point it kind of divides that team mentality. So I just didn't fit in with that groove. So early on as a kid, I got into just riding bicycles, just being outdoors, and everywhere I would go, a bicycle when you're, 10, 11 is freedom. You can leave the house and zip around. And, we grew up in an area in Fort Worth where I could ride to the fields, and got into BMX and got a bunch of friends that were riding, and we would build tracks and dirt jumps. And we were, just spent every waking moment just on the bike. And, in a sense, it was very team oriented sport because we were all digging holes together, building jumps together, building berms together. And that team mentality was a working team that we built stuff together. But then when you're riding, you're just trying to do the best you can. And you're, trying to do better than you did last week and do a better trick than you did last week. And, the people that were better than you were helping you, and the people that weren't as good as you were helping them. So the team mentality for me in that setting, made a lot more sense. And also the lack of rules, the lack of regulations, really appealed to my sense. It was just anything goes. We were in charge. We did whatever the fuck we wanted. And, that was it. And BMX, and got into racing. And, when we'd go to the races, it was almost not as good because there was the rules and the regulations and the people in charge and blah, 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 which kind of like, we were always kind of like, fuck you to those people. And did get thrown out of quite a few places for being whatever. And me and my friends, we were definitely degenerates. We were definitely delinquents. We were definitely young criminals. And we did get involved in mild criminal activity, and mostly for financial gain, so we could buy parts for our bicycles and fix up our bicycles and get more shit. And also we got into stealing bicycles and splitting up the bicycles amongst our group to get parts for our bicycles. And, just being shitty kids. And that was probably part of the effect of us being in charge and running our own shit and not having rules and regulations. But I mean, I think there's just a certain mentality of a child that's just going to run wild and just be a fuck up. And that was definitely me and my group of friends. And not that it's good and not that it's necessary, but it did happen, and it did work out for the best in the long run. So I did pay quite a bit of atonement for all my transgressions over the years. So don't think that I haven't paid for every bad thing. But, I did get in a lot of trouble. I got caught stealing. I got caught doing a bunch of shit. And my parents basically decided that the BMX lifestyle was leading me to this life of crime. And so they took away my bicycle, and I was no longer allowed to participate in racing or all that stuff. And absent the bicycle, I got a skateboard. And one thing I'll tell you about the skateboard community and the people I got into with skateboarding, they were way further down the degenerate timeline than the people in the BMX community. So basically, right out of the pot into the fire, I went with skateboarding. And once I started skateboarding and got into the group, like there was no getting me out. I got in a lot of trouble still, continue to get in a lot of trouble, but there was nothing they could do at that point. By the time I'm, 16, 17, 18, I was like all in. There was nothing but skateboarding mattered in my life. I consider myself a lifelong skateboarder. I still skateboard today, don't skateboard as much as I used to, but right now, currently, I skateboard more than I did in the last few years. My knees, done a lot of rehab for my knees. My knees are doing good, so I'm actually able to skateboard, and looking forward to skateboarding more. And if I'm going to do some sort of exercising and cardio, then skateboarding is my preferred method. But the skateboarding community, I did get into a lot of trouble young skateboarding, but then as I got older, the friendships I built and the community I fell into with skateboarding did become like a really, really positive community. And skateboarding is what introduced me to what I talked about previously about Bad Brains and the PMA, and, the people I ended up gravitating towards in my life were the positive people, and there's a lot of great positive people in skateboarding. And just to go back to that whole team mentality, we were a team, like a worldwide team of skateboarders. Like if, in the 80s, especially, anybody that skateboarded you were pretty much instantly friends with anybody else that skateboarded. There wasn't, there's a lot of encouragement and a lot of helping out younger skateboarders, and a lot of getting encouragement and a lot of getting help from older skateboarders, which really, I think it really, forged many years of my life. And then to transfer into the latter part of this question, once I started tattooing, I was still skateboarding and I was traveling around. I started tattooing bands. I started tattooing a lot of cool punk rock bands and traveling the country with them. I got on the Warped Tour, the whole long story about how I tattooed on the Warped Tour for years, but which were some of the greatest years of my life. And I knew it. When it was happening, I knew it. I literally used to say, these are the good old days. I used to say that all the time because it was fucking awesome. And I hope anybody that's having a good time in their life right now, I hope you realize that how good it is. And I hope you take note and cherish it while it's happening instead of just reminisce about it later. But I was on the Warped Tour. Second year I was on Warped Tour. I had made friends with a bunch of people from Vans. My good buddy Kurt Soto, who was like the main dude on Warped Tour and Vans, he asked me if I would want a quick story, if I want to design a shoe. I was like, fucking A, life dream come true. So I got my foot in the door. I designed a shoe for Vans. Next thing you know, I did another shoe. Next thing I did a bunch of t-shirts. Next thing I did a bunch of events, House of Vans events, South by Southwest events, skateboarding events everywhere. And then it got me linked up with doing Sailor Jerry events and just all over the country doing all kind of cool tattoo, skateboard related, doing artwork for lots of brands that were involved with Warped Tour. So just a lot of really cool shit. And it just kind of just kicked me off. It took from being a tattooer, it just made my exposure level a lot higher. I was, a lot more people knew who I was from just tattooing. And, you tattoo a bunch of bands and then all the people that love the band know that I tattooed the band. It just kind of like everything just kind of worked cohesively and just worked together. And I just kept on keeping on. I've always been a workaholic and I just worked and tattooed and went everywhere. And that's pretty much the quick version of the story, man. I so thankful to all that, everybody that helped me along that way, and especially Kurt Soto, really made a drastic turn in my life. Great man. Thank you, Kurt. All right, Jordan, there you go. I'm going to kick off the next question. David Orton, he says, what's up? Dave from Vegas here. I'm a huge fan of your work and loving the show. Really stoked you're doing it. Was listening to your episode with Marlon Ryson and was really impacted by you talking about PMA and removing negativity from your life. In light of your feelings about negativity, how do you resolve those times when you had to give harsh criticisms to people like those that we may have seen on Ink Master? Is it just a matter of being commonplace in the tattoo industry as an apprentice tattooer? Would you receive the same type of criticism? And while seemingly harsh, it's ultimately positive when taken constructively. He says, I've personally struggled with feeling critical of others, never out loud or in public or on social media, mostly as a defense mechanism for my own feelings of inadequacy. How do you handle when you feel critical or the urge to judge in your personal life away from tattooing? Again, I'm really digging the show. Thank you so much. All right, Dave. So to get into the, I guess the first part of the question, man, I just, as far as on Ink Master, I was a judge. That was my title on the show. It was a job. It was a competition. We had to give harsh critiques to make the show interesting, and somebody had to win, somebody had to lose. So that being said, a lot of people had to be told that they sucked. And, I guess seemingly negative, but I hope everybody knows it wasn't coming from a negative place for me. All the critiques you see on the show were small excerpts of long conversations. So I would give a big, long, heavy critique about what's wrong with this, why it's bad, or why it's good, or why one thing's better, and what could be better. And I always try to definitely put some constructive criticism in there. But when I say this sucks, or you suck, or this is wonky, or this is shitty, or this is this, or this is that, that's what made the cut, because that's what's interesting. That was the hot take. And the people on the show, they know that they're there to be criticized, but they were also there in real life and heard the whole long conversation. So when they see the short edit on TV, they can remember what really happened. If you weren't there in person, then all you see is just like these hot takes, then I can see it come off as a little bit more negative. But again, it is supposed to be a harsh critique. And the other thing I'll say about being positive and being negative, I think there's a gray area in the middle there of talking shit. And I come from a long line of lifetime of talking shit about this, other people talking shit. And at the tattoo shop, you always talk shit and look through Tattoo Magazine in the 90s and talk about all the ones that suck and talk about all the ones that are badass. And it can take you down a negative road if you're being too negative. But I think you're exactly right. If you take it and you're positive within as you're taking it, you can turn it to constructive and make a positive turn from the negative input you get. And I think that's the main key. And I think that I've probably in my life been a part where I was spewing out some shit talking, but in my mind, I'm being positive to myself and reaffirming myself, but other people probably got dragged down with the negativity because they weren't in a place to take it. I've always had a lot of shit talked to me. Always been picked on, always been bullied, but I was always able to take it and turn it and be positive with it. And I know a lot of people don't have that ability, and a lot of people don't know the person's intention. So the older I get, the more I try to really take into account like how my outward expressions are affecting. And I've become more and more of a positive person as the years go on. And I just, as you get older, you get more compassionate. You should get more compassionate, and you should get more open-minded to the world. When you're young, you only see things through these narrow blinders, and I feel like I'm still growing and still, trying to get to a point where not only can I be positive myself, but I can actually help other people be positive as well. And I really, I can look back on times when I was a negative influence on people and didn't realize it at the time. So there's growth in there. I think there's a second part of the question. And it says, how do you handle trying to be when you feel critical or wanting to judge people in your personal life? And I think that to me, this resonates from a social media standpoint because you see so much negative stuff or so much adverse stuff or so much conflicting stuff and so many things that you agree with or don't agree with on the internet that you feel compelled to reach out at it. And I feel like my personal stance, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, my personal stance on social media is that anything negative that comes on my platform, I just delete it, I block it, I move on. And I think that's the easiest way to deal with it. I mean, there's a lot of things that I do not like, Pearl Jam being one of them. When Pearl Jam comes on the radio, I just change the station as fast as possible. The other option would be to leave it playing and complain the whole 7 minutes of the song. But I don't do that. I just change the station and there's a better song. I guaranteed. There's one thing I do know for a fact, that if Pearl Jam's playing on any station and you change it to the next station, there's a 99% chance that the next station you change it to will be playing a better song than Pearl Jam. The chances that it's going to be worse are so slim. So just change it. Promise you. I mean, that the odds are in your favor that whatever's next cannot be worse than Pearl Jam. I mean, I guess it could go to Michael Jackson and that would be worse. But that's on principle alone. But anyway, I don't know if I answered all the question, but that's what you get. All right. Thank you, David. All right. One more question. All right. Andy Zumo says, this is coming from a fellow Lodge brother. He says, I know you probably answered it on Go Power Sports, but what was your first mini bike? How did you get into mini bikes? Maybe talk about how that evolved into what the interest is now. All right, Andy Zumo. He's got a very tricky last name to say, but it's Elizarraz. I'm going to spell it just because y'all can know what this is. Elizarraz. That's a name right there. That's why we call him Sumo. All right, Andy. So when I was really young, my father was the kind of guy that would, he was the send it kind of guy. He was the guy that would just hand me a jalapeno and let me take a bite and watch me cry for an hour, or put me in a wagon and roll me down a hill and let me crash into a cactus and laugh for an hour. He was usually drunk. But he also put me in a go-kart. I would say when I was too young to be in a go-kart, especially this go-kart. But man, once I was in that go-kart, it was love. And one of my main loves in life is motor vehicles. And it started, I got this go-kart. And my dad also put me on a mini bike, small, no suspension, lawnmower, pull start engine, mini bike. Put me on this mini bike and just let me rip. I never ridden anything. He just put me on this mini bike and rip it up, so I crashed a lot and, got hurt, but it didn't matter. You get hurt, you get right back on, and you want to keep going. It's a good thing about being so young when you get into this kind of stuff is that this is no fear. You have no realization of life or death. You don't care about anything. You're just you just want to rip it up. So I think if anybody's really going to truly end up later in life racing cars or riding motorcycles or doing any kind of stuff, you have to start young, because if somebody had to rent a motorcycle by the time they're 30, it's probably not a good idea to do it, and that's pretty common. People that start out on mini bikes, but anyway, got me on this mini bike, and I loved it. And man, out my cousins had land, and we were out there go-karting and mini biking. And then I got older, and next summer I was on a dirt bike. And then, then the rest of my life, I'm just on any motorized vehicle as much as possible. My parents got divorced when I was really young, like 5 years old. My dad disappeared for a while. They came back, and he was the kind of dad that would just show up randomly, give me a bunch of cool shit, and then leave and be gone for a while. And my mom was, very different, very more cautious and really protective. So I wasn't allowed to have any of this kind of shit with her. And she didn't know they had any of this shit when I was with my dad. So when I would go to my dad's for summer, I'd go-karts, dirt bikes, mini bikes, all this shit. And then as soon as I got out of high school, I bought a motorcycle, and riding. My mom didn't even know that I'd ever ridden a motorcycle before, and I was just like, "Oh, I've been riding for years," And she was like, "Ah," but so years go by, and I'm at a swap meet. I'm in my, probably somewhere in my 20s, and I see this old busted up mini bike that remind me of the mini bike I had when I was a kid. I was like, oh man, I'll buy this mini bike. So I did. This is what guys do. They get old and they start reminiscing about their youth, and they start thinking about things they did when they were young. They see a mini bike at a swap meet, like, I'm going to get a mini bike. And that's what I did. I got a mini bike, and I fixed it up, and I started zipping around the neighborhood. And like when you're a kid and you're on your mini bike and, you're running around the neighborhood, and somebody tells you to stop, you're like, okay. Or the cop comes by, you get in trouble or whatever. But when you're an adult, you don't give a fuck. Just ride around the neighborhood. What's the cop going to say? Man, I'm an adult, man. I can do whatever I want. And they're like, give me a ticket. But so anyway, start riding mini bikes and get a couple mini bikes, and some other friends like, oh man, I want to get a mini bike. And then it starts going crazy. And then, now the mini bike craze is fucking wild, dude. Mini bikes are hot. You want to get a mini bike? Now's the time. Just talking to my buddy Tim the other day, he's going to get a mini bike. But, so anyway, we start, and then I get into Lodge, and we have these parades, and, we've ridden in a couple parades to get a mini bike crew and get like a bunch of people who have a parade float, and we ride around with mini bikes. And we did the Texas State Fair parade a few years. We've done a bunch of parades in Waxahachie. Man, there's a whole company, Go Power Sports, that caters to old men wanting to ride mini bikes. And there's mini bike races, and all the big motorcycle events have mini bike races. And Mama Tried in Milwaukee's got Flat Out Friday with the big race, and they also have mini bike section. So it's really, it's a growing thing. There's mini bike events all over the country. So get yourself a mini bike and get out there. One thing I'm going to warn you about, though, if you're going to get a mini bike, you got to be completely okay with being stupid and looking like an idiot. A lot of people out there are just too cool for school kind of guys. They can't get mini bikes. They're too cool. They got to look cool all the time. But if you're willing to just ride around, have fun, look like an idiot on this little bitty fucking, then a mini bike might be for you. I highly recommend it. If you want to get into any kind of motorsport as an older person, mini bike is your safest bet. You might get hurt, but you're going slow and you're low to the ground. You're going to get hurt less. There's a lot of, compared to like motocross, you're going really fast and really high, you're going to get hurt a lot. So on a mini bike, the smaller, the less you're going to get hurt. So, but there's definitely, a smaller degree of danger in the mini bike realm, but it is a lot of fun, and it is the cheapest way to get into any motorsport, because you can just buy a cheap little mini bike and just zip around. Kids and grown-ups love them. So mini bike season is coming up. Next couple months, there's going to be mini bike events everywhere. So get to it. And we give a little shout out again, Go Power Sports. Any mini bike needs, you can hit up the Go Power Sports guys. And that's it. All right, Andy, thank you so much for your question. And coming up right now, my buddy Rainbow with with an entertaining, funny, heartwarming, insane, crazy life transformation story. Stay tuned, and thanks for being here. What in the Duck podcast is proud to be sponsored by Anchor Screen Printing. Anchor Screen Printing has been printing t-shirts and merch products since 1999. Anchor is the place for quality, small-run items. At Anchor, every print is hand-done by people who care about art. No mass-produced, machine-operated printing done here. You can email Anchor at anchorcustoms@gmail.com to talk about getting something printed for your company, brand, or shop. Anchor Screen Printing also has its own online merch store that sells Elm Street Tattoo, Cheap Thrills, Heart in Hand, Party First Safety Maybe merch, and much more. You can check it all out now at anchorscreenprinting.com. All orders at anchorscreenprinting.com over $20 have quick and free shipping in the continental U.S. So go to anchorscreenprinting.com today to buy some cool shit, or you can click the link provided in this podcast to shop now. All right, Rainbow. Buddy, how are you feeling today?
Oliver Peck, I feel greater than... Oh, man. Life is wonderful.
Well, welcome to Mio Tia's Mexican restaurant. Hopefully, after the podcast, you can hang out and see what the daily special is and
all right,
get something good to eat. All right, everybody. This is Terry Welch, affectionately known as Rainbow by myself and the cohorts down at the Elm Street Tattoo, where Rainbow is frequented for many, many, many years. So basically today, this story about life transformation. Our buddy Terry here has overcome what some people would say unsurmountable odds. And it's pretty amazing. I've known about this man for probably 30 years, but we've been closely acquainted for at least the last 15 or so. But little quick backstory on myself in Deep Ellum. In the early 90s, well, early 90 and a little bit of 91, I lived in Deep Ellum and was on drugs and was selling drugs. And my man right here also lived in Deep Ellum and was on drugs and was selling drugs. And we took drastically different life courses. But, we're going to get into that a little bit and just kind of unravel this story a little bit. But to let you know little key facts right off the bat, Rainbow was homeless for many years, and now he is not. Rainbow was on drugs for many years, and now he is not. Rainbow has an apartment. He has a cat named Dude, who I met, and this cat is killer. We will insert photo later. But man, just a lot of people see themselves in a situation or see other people in a situation and think that there's just no hope and no way out. And through the help of a lot of great people, you found a way out, man. And just to get a little bit into the old story, like, what brought you to Deep Ellum in the first place?
What brought me to Deep Ellum in the first place? Well, it was a guy named Adam Armstrong. And I had quit the railroad, and I was staying with my mother. And I came down to Deep Ellum to go to a concert. It was Edie Brickell and the New Bohemians at 500 Cafe.
Remember that?
And I saw this little cat sitting out front, and he had long hair, and he was sitting there, and he's selling his jewelry. And so I kind of just watched him for a while. I watched him for about an hour, and I saw him sell a few more pieces of jewelry. And finally, I walked up to him, and I said, "Hey, bud, I'll give you $5 if you just tell me how much money you fucking made." Is it okay to cuss?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so anyway, he pulls out like 65, 70 bucks and says, "Yeah, this is what I made." And so I gave him $5. And so later on, I said, "Hey, dude, I'll tell you what. I got a half an ounce of weed and $50. I'll give you this if you will take me and teach me how to make jewelry tonight." And he said, "Well, I'm living at my parents' house." I said, "Well, can we trip acid out there? I mean, hell." And so we went out to his house, stayed up all night, tripping on acid, and I made 3 different pieces of jewelry that were soldered. I made the whole thing. And then I made 3 wire wraps. And so we went down to Deep Ellum. That was on a Thursday or something. And then on Friday, the next day, we went to Deep Ellum. And
and this is what year?
This is 1989.
Yeah.
The beginning of 1989. Yeah. And we were right out in front of, where the Armory is.
Oh, yeah.
That little parking lot right beside there.
Vortex Mex.
There used to be a taco stand there.
Airstream trailer.
An Airstream trailer. Yes, sir.
And that's where I saw you the first time in probably 90, and you were selling jewelry.
Yes.
And drugs.
So the thing is, I'm telling you, my mind just wanders every once in a while. And
it's all that LSD.
It's all that LSD. So anyway, we set up and we were selling jewelry. And the next thing I know, this girl walks up and she goes, "How much you want for this one?" I said, "I don't know. I ain't never sold a piece of jewelry before." She goes, "Well, how about $20? And I said, "Well, dang, that sounds pretty good. Okay." So my friend still hadn't sold nothing. The next thing I know, this other guy walks up and he says, "How much you want for this one right here?" And next thing I know, I done made 20 more. Then this guy walks up and he says, "Hey, I've been looking for you all over. I've got a piece in my car I want you to make for me." And I didn't know who he was from a hill of beans, but I said, "I've been on tour and I just got back in town. Go ahead, get it, and I'll see what I can do." So I ended up wrapping this little piece of malachite while he was in the Dada. And when he came back out, some bitch gave me a $50 bill for that little piece of jewelry, and that made $90 that I'd made that night, and my friend still hadn't made a buck. I got one piece of jewelry left, and as we're cleaning up to get ready to go, this girl walks up and she goes, "How much you want for this?" And I said, $10 sounds like a winner. So I made $100 the very first night I ever tried to sell jewelry. And that was the greatest, the adulation.
You were off to the races.
Adulation. I'd worked for the railroad for 13 years. And I don't think not once anybody ever walked up and said, "Hey, you did a good job." And that adulation really made the difference. That's part of what the whole reason I'm here is because I tried to make people happy when I was, That's an important part of life. It's trying to be happy yourself and trying to make other people happy.
Well, there's a lot of homeless people in Deep Ellum. There's a lot of bums. People call them bums. People call them whatever. But there's a lot of people that are just strung out. They're on drugs. They're on crack. They're on whatever. But Rainbow here, you had a very adverse reaction to the term bum. You're like, "I'm not a bum. I'm a hobo. I'm a hustler. I'm a this. I'm a that." But you're an educated man.
I'm an educated man.
And you ended up in a certain situation, but you, from what my experience, you were always trying to sell things or do little deals. Or this man's also a magician. He would stand around Deep Ellum, telling jokes, doing card tricks, doing quarter tricks, doing magic tricks, and trade for monies. And that was like your defining difference between just being a bum and being somebody who is.
Of course. In life, you're always going to make more money when you're giving something away to begin with, and trying to make people happy is one of the greatest, things in life. That makes the difference between someone coming up and just begging you for some money and someone saying, "Here, let me show you something and give you something,"
Yeah. And you'd come to the tat shop and try to sell stuff, and sometimes we'd buy it, sometimes we wouldn't. Sometimes you'd do a magic trick. Sometimes you'd play dice with us.
You got lucky a few times.
Oh yeah,
I got lucky a few times.
We got him hooked on a CeeLo. Quick story. One time, Rainbow comes in the shop. We rolled for a couple of dollars, and he lost it. He lost the money, and then he went right out front of the tattoo shop, did a card trick for a couple. They handed him some money,
came back,
and then we rolled dice for it right there on the sidewalk, and he lost the money again. And the two people that gave him the money were like, "What the?" And I'm like, "That's what you get for giving your money." Oh man, but to keep on topic, a lot of things over the years. I mean, you were on the streets for how many years?
I was on the street for approximately 6 to 7 years. I mean, my mother died in 2008. By 2010, I was in the homousness. And
prior to that, you were doing things and hustling these fellow men.
Oh, man, I was making jewelry. I had quite a few jobs.
Yeah. What would you say was the other than losing your family members and stuff, but what do you think was and we kind of talked about this a little bit, was the thing that pushed you down to finding yourself completely homeless?
Well, drugs. I mean, the thing is, when you do a hit of crack, what it actually does is it sucks the life right from you. You definitely feel everybody staring at you. And then you're standing there wondering, what the hell am I doing this for?
But then you do it again.
And then again. You do it again and again. And there's no way out. And the only way that I made it out was I made some good friends, And the thing is, those friends helped me. And I'm going to tell you that they've made quite a difference in my life. A man named, I just want to mention his name for sure, is Larry James. And this guy runs City Square. And do you know a little bit about City Square? A little bit. City Square is where they help homeless people. They've got a food pantry, and they do all kinds of services for people. And I not only got to, how I met him was I did a card trick for him when they were breaking the ground for City Square. And Channel 5 News was out there, and, I did my little card tricks for them, and they loved it. And this guy walks up to me, and he goes, "Dude, how the hell are you even homeless? I mean, you're a great guy. You don't look like you should even be here, And I said, And so he said, "I'm going to help you, son. I'm going to get you off the street. My God, you don't need to be on the street." And a year later, it took about a year. And a year later, that man, not only did he help me get in my place, but the day he took me to my place and went by Walmart and bought a dead-gum TV so that I would not be alone. And that right there is going above and beyond the call of duty in my books. Because that television wasn't nothing to him, but it made a great deal of difference to me.
Well, man, and just getting off the street and getting off drugs is a step, but staying off the drugs is, you have to have
determination.
But everybody thinks that you can't make a big change. You have to just start, and you got to keep moving.
You have to make small steps.
You got to make the decisions to make these choices.
Yes, but you have to have. First off, you have to be happy with where you're at in life, and you have to be happy. I mean, that's the key to everything: is your inner happiness.
That's I say. If whatever you're doing not making you happy, then it's not worth doing. Wherever it is, happiness is our only goal as an existence, because there's no grand achievement that's going to go down in the mark of history forever. There's nothing that's your goal is just to be happy in the moment and live a good life and enjoy what you have.
Absolutely.
If you don't do that, you're going to waste everything.
That's it. I mean, and that's the whole thing. When I was homeless, I mean, I wanted to make other people happy, but I mean, I'm masking I'm totally sad life that I was living. And until I gave up the drugs and decided that the reason I gave up the drugs was because I was already in this house. And I thought to myself, this man helped me get off the street. I cannot do this anymore. I cannot be this person, because, so much has changed in my life. My attitude and
You've always been a generally positive person in my book. And one of the things I really personally liked about this way things went down with this story is that you kind of disappeared from Deep Ellum for a little while.
That's because I got a home.
That's what I'm saying. And I didn't see you for quite a while. And then it was probably, I don't know how long it was, over a year. But you came in the shop and they said, hey, Rainbow came in looking for you. And I was like, oh, wow, I haven't seen him in a while. And then when I did finally see you, you'd been sober for almost 2 years.
I've been sober 3 years now.
But you came in, it was almost 2 years. And you said, hey, I didn't want to come in here until I had been sober long enough, And you made that effort. And I thought that was, I kind of partially wish you would have come sooner, but I understood. And I thought it was great that you have taken it seriously and you made these big strides and you made these big chances. And I thought it was incredible. I see people down and out fighting to get out of their situation for years and years and years, but they don't make the changes. And a lot of people try to help people that are in a bad situation.
But they're not willing to change.
But not only that is
the change.
A lot of the programs that try to help homeless people just help them get a meal for a day.
Yes.
Help them get something for a day. Help them give them a few dollars for a day. But that's not helping you not be homeless anymore. This guy, Larry, is making steps to actually help you not be homeless. Not just help you stay homeless for a day or not just help you get one meal here and there, which is obviously appreciated when you're hungry on the side of the street. It's appreciated to get a meal, but to actually get help that's going to inspire you to stay off the street is more programs like what he's doing is what people need to concentrate on.
Yes, sir. That's the key. Until a person makes up their mind in their mind that they want a better life and that they want to, be seen as a better person, they're not going to stop the drugs.
Yeah.
It has to be a decision from the inside, from the heart.
I was lucky to get in a lot of trouble with the law at a very young age and realized that I was looking at a life in prison, and I changed my ways. I straightened up really young, and the whole Scared Straight kind of program, and it helped. And I'm thankful for that. I could have been just like my father who didn't get sober till he was 40. I could have been just like my uncle who never got sober and died. I could have been, homeless on the street. I could have been whatever. And I did a lot of drugs, but mostly just partying. And that's how it mostly starts, is you start and you're having a good time. It's great, blah, blah, blah. And then it's a downhill ride. Nobody gets on drugs and then ends up being a good thing. It's like ends up getting bad until you have to get off.
It's all cool when you start.
Yeah. But
it's all cool.
The one thing that I say about crack is that I never did crack, but I learned pretty young not to do crack because I saw that crack is so good.
It's so powerful.
It's so good that you're willing to live under a bridge for it.
The thing is,
and that's the scary thing.
It's such a rush for a few seconds. And then you're left with this starry-eyed, steely-eyed, blank look of what the fuck is going on? It's no good. There's no good comes from it.
And that's the thing. We want to, I would think by this 2022, we're getting to the point where young kids are not going to go that far with drugs anymore. You know, I keep thinking that in a year now
people are going to
learn like.
I will say that from my observations that today's society has a more of an addiction towards a phone than real drugs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more like they can't keep their face out of it for 20 or 30 minutes. I mean, that used to piss me off when I'd be doing my little tricks. Somebody would whip out their phone. I'd say, hey, motherfucker, is that your mother? I mean, god dang, dude. I mean, come on. I'm trying to show you something for a couple of minutes. I mean, don't you got call waiting on that thing? Shit.
Oh, man. Well, speaking of magic tricks, how did you get in? Did you learn magic tricks at a young age?
Okay, when I first became homeless, I was walking down through Deep Ellum and I had ran across a guy that had been a magician, a professional magician. And he, and I'd known him from Adam Armstrong, and his name was Mio. And anyway, he said, dude, what the hell has happened to you? And I go, man, I'm on drugs. And, I mean, life sucks. And he goes, listen, bud, you got to fucking snap out of it, man. I mean, you're a cool motherfucker. Hey, dude, you can't be going around begging and fucking shit. You got to get you a hustle, bud. I'm going to teach you a couple of card tricks. And he said, you learn you a couple of jokes and you go out and you kill them, bud. I mean, don't ever fucking beg for money. Hell, make them give it to you. That's the key, And so I did. I mean, he taught me a couple of card tricks, and tell you the truth, my whole act is based on 4 tricks that I know and about 10 jokes. And the rest of the time was just bullshit.
Yeah.
But I mean,
back then there were so many people in Deep Ellum, you could tell those same 10 jokes a million times. Different people.
I mean, a good joke is a good joke no matter what. And it's mostly dad jokes. I kept my jokes, I had a set of jokes where if the kid comes up, I'm going to be damn sure good at that. And if the adults come up, I had a couple of, for them too.
What's your biggest hit?
What?
What's your biggest hit? The biggest crowd-pleasing joke?
I've
probably heard it before.
What do you call a deer with no eyes?
I remember this one.
No idea. I mean, there was quite a few of them, but I can't even remember the jokes now. And the thing is,
you're off your hustle now.
The thing is, you asked me the other day to show you a card trick, and the thing is, the only way any magician is ever any good is if you do it every day, and it is part of your life. Is the only way that you know. And at one time, I was super good.
You had some good ones.
Yes,
you used to really dazzle people. I remember.
Well, it's all in the attitude. It's not so much the It's the that you're presenting it with that makes the difference.
I remember we used to. You'd come in, give a card trick, and we'd try to get you to tell us how you did it, and you'd be like, magician never reveals the secrets.
Never reveals the secrets. But, I wanted to just tell you, Oliver, I've respected you and looked up to you for a long time, and I thank you for, this opportunity to just say something. I mean, it means an awful lot, bro.
Well, thank you for being here.
Because you are a treasure in Deep Ellum. I mean, to promote such a place. And that's what I hope with this book.
So we didn't even say that yet.
Well, I mean, that's...
Rainbow here's planning to write a book.
I'm planning...
about his memoirs, his life story, his journey, his transformation, there's all this stuff going on. There's a lot more details that we're not going to get into today.
No.
This is like the sneak peek of what's to come, but you're hoping within a year this book's going to be ready.
Within a year, yes. Before the whole shit house goes up in flames.
Yeah. So I wanted to have you on here to kind of give you that jump start and give you a push and let you know there's people that want to hear this story. And in the end, I mean, as long as you keep on the current trajectory, this is going to be a story of triumph. You know what I mean?
It's
trials and tribulation, but... So the idea of, you get into this place in your life right now, you're writing a book. what's the go from there?
Okay, the thing is, my story revolves around overcoming drugs and all that, but there's been some people that have really, really made a difference in my life. One of them is Larry James. The other is Matt Medlock. He owns Legacy Music Group.
And you've been working there for a little while.
Yes, I've been working there for about 3 years. And now I don't do nothing but clean there. But the thing is, I get to hang around with wanting to be famous people anyway.
But you got a shirt with your name on it.
I got a shirt with my name on it.
I mean, you
That's the greatest part of it.
You're like Navin Johnson. You're in the phone book now.
Yeah, I'm in the phone book now. And so the other people are Greg and Gianna Fusel. And if you've ever been to Deep Ellum, he's the one with all the flag poles on Maine.
Exposition in Maine.
He's got all the flag poles, and he's got a big iron fence. And they helped me quite a bit, I would like to say more about the homelessness but I can't really mention some of this stuff until I clear it with the law, because there could be legal matters involved about what I did when I was homeless. So I'm going to wait.
I mean, you're an outlaw.
I'm an outlaw.
You're a criminal.
I'm a criminal.
You were, what's the word?
I did what
a derelict for many years.
I did what I had to do to survive.
Well.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I think I myself dabbled in being a criminal at a young age.
I don't feel good. I mean, yes, I do. Man, I'm going to tell you, I feel like when the story of Deep Ellum is told, that I'm going to be ranking right up there with the best of them.
With Bob.
Yeah, I hope I get to be more famous than Bob, really.
Well, I don't know. They made a movie about Bob.
Well, you know what? My movie's going to be an epic motherfucker. So I ain't got no worries there.
So before we started off today, I popped in to your place. Rainbow's got a sweet little apartment and a cat named Dude. Man, what a sweet cat.
I love that cat.
Man.
That cat, I'm going to tell you, go ahead and tell you a story. I mean, the guy named Larry James, he had a cat named Deuteronomy, and it had died. And he had made a post on Facebook about this cat and how much he loved him and everything. And so I'd read that. I'd gotten up in the morning, had a cup of coffee, and read that. And the next thing I know, I open my door, and this cat runs in, meowing and just hungry as all get out. And I named him Dude and kept him.
How long you had Dude?
I've had Dude about a year now.
Yeah, I've seen him on the internet for a while.
I've had Dude for about a year. And Oliver, after going for so many years without just physically hugging something and telling somebody that you love them, man, it makes a big difference in life. To be able to tell something or somebody that you love them.
That's a beautiful statement.
Thank you.
It is. What in the Duck podcast is proud to be sponsored by Legacy Ink, the finest in tattoo pigments. I have been using this ink exclusively for over 20 years myself. It has been recently rebranded and marketed, but it has been the same recipe for decades. Real, hand-mixed tattoo pigments that heal great and last. People always comment on the yellow that I use and the yellow tattooed on me. My favorite, the Mayan yellow. I have seen countless 20-plus-year-old tattoos with the colors still vivid. Don't fuck around with all these newfangled companies with their watered-down baloney. Get the tried, true, and tested good shit. You can find them on Instagram at Legacy Pigments or email Ashley today to place an order at legacyartsupplies@gmail.com. Tell them Oliver sent you and receive a special discount. Don't just do tattoos. Be a part of a legacy. So I tell people, over this last couple of weeks or so that I was going to have you as going to be one of the first guests on the podcast. And they just they look at me. I'm like, man, Rainbow is got a job. He's got an apartment. He's off drugs. He's got a phone. He's on Instagram.
I got an iPhone.
He's got a cat. This guy, he's got art on the wall.
I'm back, baby.
This guy is like living a dream. And they're just like, man, and most people in their daily walk of life probably don't
appreciate it.
I'm saying they probably don't have like an actual interaction with anybody that's homeless. But when you work in a place like Deep Ellum, like you have a lot of interactions.
Yes.
And with the same, not just that one time you saw the guy outside of the grocery store. I mean, like every day at work, I see the same people every day and you get to know them. And there's people that have been down there, like Carol, for 30 plus years. And then there's some people that, there's always a problem with them because they're always fucking up. They're always, who knows what they're doing. But, for many, many years, me and you had a relationship, you know what I mean? And it's, and
you were always a nice guy.
But to have, and I feel like I didn't have, I don't know how to say it. I just don't, I guess I just thought that you were just never going to get it together.
You know what?
And I just thought that this guy's on drugs. He's homeless. He's a nice guy. And there's no reason that, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to do it. But I'm not the one that made these steps to give you these chances,
No.
and now seeing that what happened, I'm just like, man, it's amazing. Because you just see these,
amazing.
You see these people that are just.
I agree. It is amazing.
And you see these people, whether you see them once or you see them every day at your job, and you're just like, man, they're just never gonna, there is hope.
There is a chance.
There is a chance. Hope. And there is hope.
There is hope. And it's for not just me, but there's hope for the world. I mean,
It's a pretty inspiring deal. And I don't know if that is coming across, in this your story, but I feel like this book is really going to give a chance. But I don't, I think that it'll open up the idea, and I hope that it does.
Hope.
But I hope it opens up the idea of a different way of help, because what people do, like you give somebody $1 on the side of the road, that's not. If you really want to help somebody, that's not going to help them not be homeless anymore.
No,
you know what I mean. It takes more than that.
It takes more than that.
And
it takes.
It takes more than that on both parts. It takes more than that from you. It takes more than that from the people trying. So if you really want to help somebody do something, you need to help them more than just
correct
a little bit. But a lot of people in Deep Ellum, obviously helps you. You mentioned to me about people at Pepe and Mitos.
Pepe and Mitos.
I mean,
all of the people there.
They are great people.
Pepe Rojas, his mother, Alex, and their daughter. They have all, I will say that during the time I was homeless, whenever I would go to the back door and knock on it and say, I'm hungry, he would say, hang on just a minute and we'll get you something. And never charge me a penny for it. I mean, truthfully, to say the very least, I would not be here today as healthy as I am if it hadn't have been for the people at Pepe and Mateos. I love them.
Have you been to eat there lately?
Hell, I go there every time I come to Deep Ellum and clean the shop. I'll probably go there this afternoon and tell them of my triumph here. And, they love me and I love them a great deal.
That's amazing. So you recently told me that you were looking for another job or a new job or more jobs. Like, what do you see in the near future?
Okay. I actually, I went to Topgolf. They were right across the street. And I tried to get a job there. And so I went in and I had the first interview. And I mean, it was a bunch of kids. Really, I didn't see nobody there that was like going to hire me. And I was going up to every person saying, who's in charge here? Who's in charge here? Who's in charge here? And they go, we're all in charge. I go, I can't see any one of y'all running this shit. I mean, y'all look like a bunch of kids to me. And so anyway, they ended up calling me back. And I had another interview with the guy. And I talked with him for about an hour. And I told him my story. And he got down to the end. He said, do you have any felonies? And I said, well, yes, I do. I got a couple. One of them's for a hot check and the other one's for some cocaine. And he said, I'm going to have to check about that. And so they hadn't called me back yet. So I went over there the other day and put in my 2 cents again. And I don't know if they're going to end up hiring me or not. But what I was going to do was ask you, Oliver, if you might need a guy that comes in and cleans every once in a while.
Well, we got people cleaning already.
Well, I mean, if one of them quits or whatever, I would be available. Because I work for Legacy now, and I clean there, but it's not much money. It's once every couple of weeks.
Were you doing something down at the Dallas Comedy Place when they were building that?
Yes, I did. I worked for Greg Fusel. He has a drywall company called Express Drywall.
So he doesn't own the comedy club. He's just doing the work for it.
He was doing all the drywall inside. I put all the insulation in all those walls for the comedy club.
That was one of the first times I saw you, and you had gotten off work, and you were just covered in drywall dust. And I was like, man, it looks like you got a job.
Yes. I mean, throughout the years, Greg has helped me, and, a lot of people have helped me.
Well,
and I mean, the thing is, I've always wanted to kind of do something with the comedy club, but I mean, the way I look at it.
You're going to have to come up with more jokes before you
the thing is, I mean, I can't go give them away to about 1,000 people and then come up with more in a few minutes. I mean, that don't make sense.
I mean, you were operating on same 10 jokes for 10 years.
For 10 years, yeah. I mean, I don't want to give them away all at once to a big group of people.
Oh, man. Well, so to back up a little bit, you were selling jewelry down there by the Vortex Mix.
Yes, I was selling jewelry.
And you had the little stand or little spot.
Well, we didn't have a stand. We had a little, we rolled out a little piece of leather.
Yeah.
And just had set the jewelry on the leather. And had some leather cord and,
We had some other little knickknacks and over the years.
Of course. Yeah.
And that's where the name Rainbow comes from.
Well, it was actually... You called me Rainbow, but my actual name was Starbow. And I got that name at a Hopi Indian ceremony in Taos, New Mexico. This guy, I mean, we were tripping on acid and shit. And this guy walks up to me and he kind of looked like Billy Jack. He had 2 ponytails and everything. And he says, do you have an Indian name? And I go, no, bro, I ain't got one. And he taps me on the forehead and he goes, you are Starbow.
Well, there you go.
And I go, dude, that's a cool motherfucking name. I mean, shit, I couldn't have thought of that myself. I said, I'll take it.
Pretty good.
I'll take it.
Well, I started calling you Rainbow because you were selling little hippie jewelry type stuff, like the Rainbow store.
Well, I was a rainbow. I mean, part of the hippie family. I used to hang out with all the new bohemians, Edie Brickell, Kenny Withrow, John Bush.
And the Rainbow Gatherings.
The Rainbow Gatherings. Went to a Rainbow Gathering up in Ouray, Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you go to the one in Texas in about 1990?
No, I did not.
I did.
Yeah.
And it was wild.
Let me tell you, the main circle at a Rainbow Gathering would come noon on July the 4th. I mean, not just to mention all the naked girls running around, but the vibe, that when 30 or 40,000 people get together and they let me tell you, that's a pretty powerful dadgum little thing. I mean, it affected me so much. That's the only tattoo I got on my arm.
It's a rainbow.
It's the Ohm symbol.
You got to get a rainbow tat now.
Well, I'm going to get I'm definitely going to get a tattoo from you, but I haven't really worked out exactly what it's going to be. I was going to get a tattoo about all these people that helped me, but my friend Matt, he's thinking about getting rid of the music store and going into real estate because there's more money.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like with the pandemic and all, people can't get famous like they used to. I mean,
it's hard to get famous in a pandemic.
It's hard to get famous in a pandemic. I mean, when you can't get out there and push what you got going on.
Well, man, I don't know what, I mean, the pandemic was pretty wild. You know, the effects it had. And a lot of my friends are musicians. And a lot of my friends travel and tour in bands. And even our friend here, Blake, does sound like no shows were coming down. You know, his gigs were gone. But a lot of our friends that just travel and play music had nothing. No shows for over a year. And it's just like, you know, I got friends that very talented, busy musicians that are driving Uber or doing who knows what. But one of the craziest moments for me, early on, the first couple, I don't know, maybe it was like the first month or so that the whole shutdown happened because everything in Deep Ellum was closed except for a few places.
Well, I mean, I thought it was pretty weird when they ran through there and started tearing up stuff. Man, that was
just stupid.
That was just bad.
But Elm Street Tattoo was open, Tiki Loco was open, and I think 7-Eleven was open.
Legacy was open. He made more money during the pandemic than he did.
Nobody was on tour. Everybody was in the studio.
Everybody was in the studio.
But I come downtown, and there's nobody's in downtown.
Yes.
Every business is closed, and there's a guy, a homeless guy, standing in the middle of Malcolm X and Elm Street, dead square in the middle, right there, like in the middle of the intersection, and he's got his hands in the air, and he's screaming, "Where are all the people? Where are all the people?" Like he just, and in my mind, I'm like, this guy just woke up in an alleyway, and the world's over, you know. And he came out to the street, and there's nobody. He's just like, and obviously it had been a few days had gone by. And he was just freaking out, you know? And at that point, I was like, we need to board up.
Yeah, you need to board up.
We need to board up because if every business is closed, nobody's going to be down here. It's just going to be nobody's going to, it's like, it's like leaving the candy store open, you know?
Yeah,
the kids is going to run in. So I was like, we're boarding up. And so we went to Home Depot. We bought a bunch of wood. We came downtown and we started boarding up our places, all three places on the street.
That was good.
And thing. Everybody, like Scott Beggs and Cliff from Brick and Bone, and all these people were like, "Hey, what are you boarding up? You think something's going to happen?" I'm like, "Dude, you're closed. Nobody's here. You're just going to, like, something's going to happen." And so, sure enough, riots happened.
Sure enough, I mean that George Floyd stuff.
And
happened.
we were boarded up long. We were boarded up for months. Elm Street Tattoo stayed boarded up for a whole year.
I know, man.
A whole year.
You know,
it's insane.
We hadn't even talked about the world, and I don't want to, but you know, it's been a hell of a ride.
So
for America.
The bulk of the pandemic, you were already not homeless anymore.
I haven't seen one day of homelessness since the pandemic.
My question is, what do you think? How do you think that the pandemic and the shutdown? How do you think that affected the people that are homeless? Because you would think that.
Well, I mean,
I know a lot in like places like LA, the homelessness has gone up since the pandemic.
You know, I don't know because in 2018, is when I got off the street. Before the pandemic, before the riots, before the whole world went up and, you know, and yeah, I just want to say I really didn't give a shit about nobody but me, and I was happy as a lark.
Oh, man.
You know, I mean, I was happy to wake up, be able to take a bath, cook a meal, have a cat to pet and listen to him purr, watch TV. I mean, to tell you, I love TV. And I haven't watched TV.
What are you watching?
Listen, I watch Westerns. My favorite shows are Gunsmoke,
So you're watching old TV.
Paladin. I mean, I like,
You're not watching any of these new hip shows?
Well, I mean, one of my favorites is The X-Files. I watched it all day yesterday. I mean, Scully and, I mean, I love them. I love, but no, I don't have cable TV. I don't believe in paying $30 extra.
Yeah.
I'll take whatever they're just passing out. And, but my favorite show, I guess, is Gunsmoke. I like Matt Dillon.
I mean, when I was a kid, I loved Gunsmoke.
I mean, the thing is, and Andy Griffith and all those shows, the Waltons, those shows have all the knowledge.
These kids the young kids today know nothing about that.
Listen.
Never heard of it.
If every child could be exposed to episodes of Andy Griffith and the Waltons as they are growing up, all the knowledge.
A lot of life lessons in Andy
all
Griffith.
The knowledge of life and the lessons that need to be learned. How to be a good neighbor, how to be a good friend, how to be a good person. I mean, how to get along with people.
I mean, there's an Andy Griffith episode just about like rumors, about not talking rumors about people and not talking behind people's back. And I mean, like you said, there's all kinds of life lessons in there.
That's the thing. If you accept, being a good person, I mean, if you want a better world, I mean, that's the thing. You got to be a good person. You got to be willing to put it out there and, stand by it. Hell, I mean, that's one thing I want is I just want the world to make it until I get the hell out of here. I mean,
Well, what steps are you making now towards getting this book together?
Okay, I've already started writing the book, but I found that I am not any good with a pen in my hand. I mean, it's like I can't write as fast as I can think, and I damn sure can't spell as good as I need to.
Well, that's why you need to get the voice recorder and just.
Well, that's what I'm going to do.
Shit it out and then let somebody transcribe it.
I figure what I will do is end up just putting it all down, and I figure I might as well make a film about it in the process because I could turn that into a book itself.
And you're gonna need someone, a co-writer or.
I've already got a co-writer.
Well, good.
And his name is Larry James.
All right, and he wrote a book.
And he's written a book. Yes, sir.
And what's the name of the book?
The Wealth of the Poor.
And the gist is? The
gist is that how you treat your neighbor and how you go about having relationships with other people is what makes the world a better place.
Better than, yeah.
I mean, that's it.
There's a lot of unhappy rich people.
There's a lot of unhappy. I mean, happiness comes not from money, but from what's inside you. I mean, I am so filled with happiness lately because, I mean, I actually know from being homeless and having everything I ever worked for and loved ripped away from me, to have no possessions in life, to have no friends, to have no family. I actually know what it's like to have nothing. And I know how important, people like you and love and all these things are so important in life. To love yourself and to love other people is what it's all about.
Well, it seems like you're definitely on the right track.
Yes, sir.
I hope, all I can say is I hope you stick with it. I have a lot of friends that I grew up with that we did drugs together and we drank together and we partied together. And I've had, over the last few decades, every couple of years, there's another friend of mine from my youth that's like trying to get sober and trying to shit together and trying to get off drugs or trying to stop drinking. And every time that happens, I mean, I want to help as much as I can, but I've learned that you can only help people once they really want to help themselves. You know, that's the main thing.
That is it. Until it is in the person's heart that they want it, I mean, you got to really want it because that shit's powerful. I mean, drugs are powerful.
The main thing it's done for me is it makes me appreciate and feel so fortunate that the situations I was in, that happened to me, you know, because what happened to you could have happened at any point. You know what? I'm just happy it happened before it's too late. How old are you now?
I'm 65 years old.
65.
Unfucking believable, huh?
So you're born in 66?
1958.
Oh, 58. What was I doing?
1958.
I had math all wrong. 58?
1958. Okay, I'm going to tell you one little story. This will take just...
because you're 15 years older than me.
I'm going to tell you, this is how my book will start
Born
out.
in the 50s?
This is how my book will start out. So I was sitting around with my mother one day, and I said, Mom, tell me about how you met Dad. And she goes, well, honey, we went out to the bowling alley one night, and I walked in, and your dad was bowling, and he had on a black pair of pants with pink stripes up the sides, and he had his little shirt on with the KCS, you know, railroaders on the back. He was part of that too. And so anyway, he rolled 9 strikes in a row, and it was just about to roll a perfect game and hit the last one. He got 9 pins and bowled a 299. And so I met him right after he did that, and he told me he wanted to take me out. So we went out on a date, and on our first date, we went to see Elvis Presley at Shreveport at the Louisiana Hayride. And she said he had a 1955 Ford Fairlane convertible. And she said, coming back from that Elvis Presley concert, we stopped at a roadside park just this side when we got into Texas, and we got in the back seat and made you. And I said, Mom, I got a feeling that's the greatest thing you've ever told me in my life. I said, I must be fucking special. Yes, sir. I must be special. Born in the back seat of a 55 Ford Fairlane, coming back home from an Elvis Presley concert. Yes, sir. I'm a special person.
Conceived.
I conceived.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Elvis is kind of like your almost a stepfather.
Basically. Yeah, almost a stepfather. Yes, sir. I mean, I feel, I've had so many. I'm gonna tell you one more story.
Let's hear it.
Okay. So when I was about 10 or 11, my mom and dad had gotten this membership to a country club because they didn't want to keep buying the babysitters to watch me, and during the day I was just running amok and getting my, so they got this membership, and they would take me out there to the country club and let me play golf all day. And I loved that. Well, on Thursday nights, it was bingo.
So you're a golfer?
Oh, I'm a golfer. Yes, sir. I lettered in high school. I was on the golf team in high school. Anyway, so it was Thursday night, and we're sitting in there. I'd come in, and I sit down, and I got a few cards in front of me, and I'm playing bingo. And this cute little girl. And I'm going to tell you, back then I was like 14, 15 years old. Okay, and this little cute girl comes in. She's wearing a yellow dress with pink polka dots, and next thing I know, she sits down in front of me, and she's so cute, and I didn't know her from a hell of beans. Well, we're playing along, and the next thing I know, there's her foot up in my lap, and I thought, holy shit, And so she gets to rubbing around and the next thing I know, she's kind of rubbing on, and I'm like, I'm hardly paying attention to the cards. Well, so I put my foot up in her lap. And what really got to me was that she started taking off my sock. And man, bells, whistles, all kinds of shit was going off in my head. I was like, holy shit, what the hell is happening? So next thing I know,
she's tickling your foot.
She is rubbing my foot with her hands. And the next thing I know, I got my legs up between her legs. And I was heading for home.
In the bingo hall.
And I kind of...
Round and third.
I kind of was worming it around there. It was getting warmer and wetter. And the next thing I know, it felt like I got my big toe up in there and I bingoed and won $100. I swear to God. I bingoed and won $100. And when I went up to...
Bingo with the big toe.
Bingo with the big toe. So what was funny was my mom was sitting by the collar, up by where they call the numbers.
Did you run up there with one shoe on?
One shoe on. And I had one sock on and one sock off. And my mother goes, why the hell do you got one sock on, one sock off? And I said, Mother, bingoed. Bingo! And so that was a good little story too.
Oh my God! Hey, that would have been around 19. If you're 15,
that would
have been around 1971.
That was
the year I was born.
That was back in the day.
So where'd y'all live?
We lived in Greenville, Texas.
Really?
Yes. And my dad worked for the Kansas City Southern Railroad. And but before we moved to the apartments, okay, in my town, Greenville, Texas, it's an old town and it's divided by a set of tracks going through the main part of town.
Did you live on the right side of the tracks or the wrong side of the tracks?
Believe it or not, Oliver, there was a 1-block section in between the tracks.
He lived between the tracks.
I lived between the tracks.
Not the good side, not the bad side.
Not the good side, not the bad side. Yes, we lived between the tracks. I lived, but I mean, the railroad switching yard was right outside my door all day long. I mean,
Your life is between the tracks, man.
So my mom ended up getting a job on the good side of town.
Oh.
And, yeah.
Well, let me ask you a question about Greenville, Texas. Have you ever heard of J.P. Punk McNatt?
I know J.P. Punk McNatt.
Really?
In fact, this is going to really freak you out.
Because he's not alive anymore. But you knew
her. The black lady who was my nanny, my Jenny, she wore a little do-rag on her head, just like Aunt Jemima. I loved that lady like nobody's business. She had an affair with J.P. McNatt and had an illegitimate child who ended up being my crack dealer.
Well, J.P. Punk. So anyway,
that don't freak you out, buddy. I'm telling you, ain't nothing gonna freak you out.
So J.P. Punk McNatt owned the Oldsmobile Cadillac dealership in Greenville, Texas. Now, my best friend Jeff Milburn just bought that building.
Do you know Tip?
I don't know.
Tip is J.P.'s son.
I don't know.
I mean, I went to school with Tip.
Wait, the real son or the illegitimate son?
Well, okay, now there is the illegitimate son,
not Tip,
and he's a mulatto, kind of. I mean, the guy that I'm talking about has, I don't know what do you call it. He's not a black person, but he's not.
He's just half and half. He's just like all of us. We're all half and half something.
Yeah, half and half something. Well, I mean, I'm just saying he's a different color.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty weird. My mother was married to before she met my dad, she was married to the guy who owned the Black Theater in town.
In Greenville.
And she said that the worst day he ever had was the day Cab Calloway was scheduled to come do a show at his place. And Cab Calloway had a white girlfriend. And they wouldn't let him and his wife stay at the hotel in town.
So he didn't play the show.
He didn't play the show, and they almost ran my old that old guy out of town. My mom said that he beat her and was mean to her, and that she just couldn't stay around him.
Well, that's good. Good she got out.
And good she got out.
So as I was saying, I just went to Greenville the other day.
Really?
Because my buddy bought this building, the J.P. Punk McNatt dealership building.
That's right downtown.
He bought that building, and it still says
J.P. Punk McNatt. Yes.
I
know exactly where it's at.
It's a cool building.
Right by downtown, right by the courthouse.
Yeah, like a half a block off the
courthouse
square. Next door to the Oddfellows building.
Yes.
But it's a really cool building, and it's a really cool little town.
I wouldn't say that.
I mean, aesthetically, it's got some cool old.
It is a cool town.
This building was built in like 1930, so it's a pretty deco architecture.
I mean, I was grateful to be raised in a small town like that because when I was
it's probably a lot smaller.
When I was
in the 50s than it is now.
When I was growing up, I worked at the skating rink, the roller derby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was the guy who started the what do they call it? The John Paul Jones or whatever,
No.
Boy skates, girl skates. You do the hokey pokey, turn yourself around.
You invented the hokey pokey.
No, I didn't invent it, but I mean, I used to get out there and call it off. I mean, it was on, I worked Saturday.
So you're a good roller skater.
I was also a damn good roller skater. I could lean over, put a match in my mouth and strike it while I was still skating.
That's the trick.
Yeah, I had a lot of tricks.
That's what you should have been doing in Deep Ellum.
Well, I had a pair of roller skates. When I can tell you about the place that I lived, okay, in Deep Ellum, people used to wonder, how does this guy show up every day? I lived right in the middle of Deep Ellum.
You had a secret spot.
I had a secret spot.
We'll learn about it in the book.
We'll learn about it in the book. And I mean, I had the keys to it. I mean, I had a door, to my own place. It wasn't mine, but,
But it was out of the weather.
It was out of the weather.
It was better than the bush in front of Fair Park.
It was better than the bush in front of Fair Park. Yes,
Tell me a story about getting kicked out of the bush.
Yes, I mean, right before I got my place, the thing is, the security had changed where I was staying.
At the bush?
No, before the bush. Oh. The security had gotten drastic to where you had to have a card and face and almost a thumbprint to get in. And so I stayed behind Pepe's in the little garbage area for a while. And then when I got tired of that, I went to Fair Park, and there was a big, huge clump of bushes. And it was a little spot right in the middle of them. And I slept there for 3 months until the people taking care of the grass said, "You got to go, bud. I mean, really, you got way too much stuff in here."
They moved all your bags to the curb.
You moved every one of them, 15 of them.
So what'd you do? You carry all them bags around?
Well, hell no. I mean, the way I used to roll was, once the shit was...
The jig is up.
Once the shit's confiscated, I just go get new shit.
Oh, man. Well, I want to tell you a little story one time, because me and you knew each other for a long time. And one day, I was walking down the street to 7-Eleven. The only time that me and you ever had an altercation. And you had gotten super high, and you had got somebody giving you a bunch of food.
They gave me 2 platefuls of turkey.
And you had laid out on the sidewalk.
I passed out.
Yeah, you were passed out, and your pockets had spilled out, and you had trash all around you, and there's just and your little drugs, and you had a little bit of drugs and some little pipe that had rolled out on the ground. And I walked by there, and I like kicked your foot and yelled at you, and I think I might have poured water on your
Cards.
on your try to pour water on your little drug baggie or whatever, and you kind of rolled over and yelled, and I was like, I said, hey man, you need to clean this mess up. You're part of this neighborhood. You can't be leaving trash everywhere. You're supposed to be one of the good guys. Now I was all mad. The only time I've ever been mad at you, and then I left, and then you came, and then you kind of woke up a little bit, and and we got into it, and I'm like, you're out here on drugs, and you're like, I'm not on drugs. I'm like, the drugs are right there on the ground, man. And you're like, well, I'm on drugs, but I'm also just ate too much turkey.
I was on tryptophan, whatever that shit is. I mean,
and I was like, man, you were on drugs. You're like, no, man, I just ate too much turkey. But then after that, I was just like, you came down and you said, hey, man, we need, I want to, we never had an altercation before. And I was like, you know what? I just want you to like,
be better,
kind of at least not be leaving trash all over the sidewalk, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. Because it's a lot of people, Deep Ellum is a family.
Deep Ellum is,
and there's some good people down there, and there's some questionable people down there. But for the most part, like I've been down there for 30 years, and I've been friends with almost everybody I can meet down there. Even some people don't like so and so. I try to just be friends with everybody, and the people that have owned businesses down there forever.
That's one of the things that when I was homeless, I made sure that I tried to meet as many people and get to know them. And I guarantee if we walk through there today, I know all the people at Trees and Cliff and Christian and half the club owners in Deep
Well, I've
Ellum.
been telling people the good news. I've been telling people. I've been spreading the word that you're on the up and up.
Well, I would also like to say there's one girl, and she works in Deep Ellum, the 3 Links, bartender.
Amy.
And
she's a sweetheart.
You know what?
She's been in Deep Ellum just as long as both of us.
I would like for you to go in there and introduce me as your friend, because I think, we got off onto the wrong foot. And, a lot of rumors were spread about me when I was homeless. And, the way I looked at it back then, I don't give a shit about what you're saying about me. As long as you're talking about me, that's the good part, But it does matter what people say, because if it's not true, I don't want to have nothing to do with it. I basically have always been a good person.
Well, my thing, anybody's got something bad to say about you, all you got to do is just prove them wrong.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, that's what you're trying to do, and that's good. I think it's amazing, man. I really do. I think it's amazing just to see anybody that's, either with help or not, either way, just climb out.
Well, brother, yeah, I'll tell you, it's grateful. I wake up grateful. I go to bed grateful, because I know that it just one way or another, it could have all turned out a lot worse than what I'm doing now.
Well, I got another question for you. Do you remember, you remember that piece of wood that you sold us?
Yes.
Man,
that came from the guy that got in trouble with all the speed.
I don't know this guy.
Well, Barron. His name was Barron. And he sold speed and stuff. And remember, they had a fire at his house. It burned. And that's how I got all that wood. He had to move out, and he had all this driftwood. And so I stashed a bunch of it behind a couple of bushes and would come back and get that one piece at a time. Hell, I was selling it. What was that girl that owned the clothing store?
No.
Etc. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, I sold her a shitload of it. I sold her $200-300 worth.
Well, we paid you $3 for that piece of wood.
Well, I mean,
It was.
I
But it's
pretty
a
much-
really. You came in the shop late night, and me and Dean and and a couple people were there, and you're like, "You want to buy this piece of driftwood?" And we're just like, looked at you like you're crazy. I'm like, "What? Are you? This is Dallas. There ain't no driftwood floating around." But we didn't know where you got it. But I think we offered you $3 for it, and so me and Dean and this guy Blake all chipped in $1 each, and that piece of wood is still at the tattoo shop, and I love that. I love that piece of wood.
One of the coolest things I ever brought you was, remember the guy, the centaur, the little, it was like a goat looking guy.
We got it.
That was one of the coolest little things I ever brought you.
Some little homemade clay sculpture
And
thing.
also the glasses that look like what's his name? The guy with the mustache.
Oh, the Marks?
Marx Brothers.
Groucho Marx?
Yeah, the Groucho Marx sunglasses. And I brought you a few ducks.
And dice.
And dice.
Oh, yeah.
Hey.
Oh.
Now, remember, back when I first became homeless, I did trade you a 4-leaf clover. It was in a little plastic thing, and a coin that folded up.
Well, I bought that coin from you.
You bought both of them, and you spent $20. But I'm going to tell you that 4-leaf clover is real, from Scotland. My my ex-girlfriend.
And you sold it, and that's why you had all that bad luck. You should have kept it.
I should have kept it. But man, I'm just so grateful and happy these days to be where I'm at and to be what I'm doing. I mean, even if I don't do nothing, I mean, it's a hell of a lot greater than it was.
Well, you got to stay on the right path. I'm glad you're here. And you got to get this book going.
I've got it going. I mean, the thing is, it's going to take a while.
Well,
But
writing a book always takes a while.
Yes, because I don't want it to just be an account. I want to somehow say something that will make a difference in the world. And,
Well, you got enough. You got some entertaining stories. I think it'll be interesting.
it will be interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
It will be interesting. And you definitely have the number one key to a book nowadays is you got to have the audio version so people can just listen to it.
Well,
instead of
that's what
reading
I want to do is record the whole thing.
And then it's got to be in your voice.
It's got to be.
Or
in my
William
voice.
Shatner. Those are your two choices.
Well, the only thing Shatner's got on me is the power pause.
I mean, he just got back from space, so he's probably re-energized. But, well, buddy, thank you so much.
Thank you, Oliver.
And we're gonna keep tabs on you.
All right.
And we're gonna hopefully you get this book done.
Yes, sir.
And we can help you promote it and push it out there.
I hope that within a couple of years that I'm having guests myself and that I become somewhat famous, at least more than 100 people looking at it.
Well, stay off the drugs.
Yes, I will.
All right. Well, thank you so much, buddy. We will keep in touch.
Thank you, Oliver.
What in the Duck podcast is proud to be sponsored by Label Solutions, www.labelsolutionsinc.com. I've been a customer of theirs for over a decade. They make the highest quality premium labels for all kinds of products. Food and beverage, personal care products, pet care products, beer and wine spirits, CBD products, automotive products, and more. They can make a label for almost anything. Multicolor, custom die cut, full wraparound labels, too many options to even tell you about. I use Label Solutions for all the stickers and labels for my stuff, like the Tiki Loco label on the coffee I'm drinking right now. They do have a minimum order of 1,000 labels, so they won't make you 20 labels for that soap you're making in your bathtub. But if you've got products to label, you need Label Solutions. Get started today at www.labelsolutionsinc.com.